Luce is a guy who probably, anticipated fighting for a starting spot coming into this year. He doesn't get that, but what's it like, seeing him make a special teams play like that still?
I think that play describes John Lewis to a T. I mean, that's a guy that doesn't slow down through contact. He accelerates through contact, and it doesn't matter what the phase is. I mean, defensively, he does the same thing. And on your first point, I mean, I think he still is competing for that. I think it's going to be an ongoing evaluation there where we got to rotate those guys, keep it fresh, so hopefully they get the best form of each one of them. But I just think that play describes who he is, to a T.
Discussed this with Coach Arnett earlier. I know you guys do some boundary and field alignments are a little bit different, but it appeared that Southeastern had some success kind of running off left tackle and kind of ran some concepts to that side with some success. What did you see there, and how did you correct it? Because it seemed like it got a little better in the second half.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think it was like left. I mean, it might have been left, but I don't think that was necessarily. It's just in this defense mainly, you get a lot more boundary type run game because of the field pressures and things that people see from us. And so, they did a good job. I mean, they had numbers over there at times. Some of those calls, I'd like that back just because of where our numbers were compared to their formations and things like that. So, I mean, I said it early on. I thought I had, great respect for what they do offensively in every facet, and they had a great plan. And, first play of the game. Shoot, that's a great play designed by them compared to probably not a great call by me. And, they got on the edge there. They did it over there in a man coverage concept on their sideline later on a 4th and 1, I believe. So just a really good play designed by them. And we're fortunate, I thought, to get some of those things corrected at halftime. And it wasn't major adjustments. It was just trying to stay out of some of those man concepts. And that helped us.
It's early in the week, but is there some memory still from playing Arizona last year? Are there some similarities you can carry over into this week?
I think, the flavor of the offense is similar, but I mean, you can tell they've got a lot better. I mean, they're better up front. The running backs, I think all three of them are tremendous players. It's like they're carbon copies of each other. The quarterback's dynamic, obviously, and then their skill positions. The slot number 2, and then they got big guys outside and go up and get the ball too. So, no, they're dynamic. I mean, you don't put up over 500 yards of offense in 54 plays or whatever, and they should have probably scored 50-some, So, no, they're a very good football team, very good offense.
With the ability, the quarterback has to scramble, keep plays alive, I guess just how much more pressure does that put, on the secondary and test them a little bit?
A lot of pressure, I think, on everybody. I mean, the secondary, number 1, the backers, anytime you're in zone coverage, you start scrambling around, you better stay in coverage. Big plays happen on those types of, trash-type plays where he's getting out and causing havoc. And then as far as the secondary goes, I mean, he has great arm strength, obviously. Not only to put the ball on a line, but also he can throw the ball a long, long ways in the air. And, if you don't have enough depth and your eyes in the right place, he's going to make you pay. So we have a great challenge ahead of us in all all factors of their offense and how they attack you.
You mentioned play numbers. I'm curious, as a defensive coach, with the new clock rules and stuff, I mean, is that something you're in favor of, just the fact that play numbers are down and stuff like that? Yeah,
I think defense is probably the only thing in sports, right, where you're on the field less, you get better. And so, absolutely, I like shorter games. I mean, when it comes to that. I think the analytics going into the season said it would only impact it somewhere around 7 plays a game, 7.5 plays a game. I'll be curious if that holds because it feels like so far through the first 2 weeks or first week and a half, 2 weeks or whatever, it seems like it's less, significant less plays. But I think time will tell on that.
Also, too, you talk about Jayden de Laura. They get the ball out so quickly, and I know a lot of times that can kind of negate your pass rush a little bit. Maybe how do you affect him as a defensive play caller when they are working that ball out to the perimeter and kind of getting those slant concepts going?
I think you have to try to do your best to understand when he's trying to do it, and it's now screens too, just getting on the perimeter. It's just another extension of the run game, right? And he gets out there so fast. So if you're sitting here having all these exotic, twists and long developing pressures, well, you're kind of banging your head against the wall a little bit on that. So you have to kind of understand what he's trying to do based on down and distance, and hopefully you adjust accordingly.
You mentioned the screen game, too. They use a ton of screens against UNA, and some of them were kind of weird formations and concepts. Like you never expect the screen to come, and then it does. Mm-hmm. I mean, so how much of that are you aware of? And, what can you do when you've got a guy like Fish out there dialing up things that they don't show on film very often?
Mm-hmm. No, I think they just do so many different formations and they hide things well that you've got to, you can't sit there and try to make the perfect call every time. You've got to let your guys go play and get them lined up and let them cut it loose and obviously make them aware of the screen game and to the best of your ability, the formations where they come and the down distances. But from there it comes, screens are effort plays. I mean, you've got to retrace at the front. You got to run, you've got to launch your body, and you've got to come downhill whether you're a linebacker, a safety, or a corner in coverage and leverage correctly. I mean, those are effort plays. So that's been a big, from yesterday and today. I mean, we have to make sure we're turning and running and leveraging the ball correctly. And so I'm sure we'll see plenty of them, and we need to do a good job with that.
Coach Arnett went out of his way to talk today about both sides of the ball, not committing pre-snap penalties, not jumping off sides, procedures, things like that. How pleased were you with your guys holding their fire and going on the snap count?
Yeah, I think I am pleased. I mean, I am pleased 100%, but that's also, I mean, that's the expectation too. So we need to play clean when it comes to those things. I thought I was probably even more proud of like our DBs when the ball's in the air, not panicking, and doing a good job. So to me, all those things, some penalties you can live with because of aggression. I mean, you want to be playing with an edge, but stupid, unforced ones, those are the ones you don't want to live with. And I thought we did a nice job of limiting those, obviously.
Speaking of your secondary, it's certainly a little bit more inexperienced and untested compared to the guys up front. What did you learn about those guys during that game last week, and how do you feel like they're coming along at this point?
They're coming along. They're going to have to take great strides this week. We're going to have a totally different test. I mean, that's not a disrespect to Southeast by any stretch of the imagination. It's just it only gets harder from here, and so we have to make sure that they play up to their ability and continue to grow and develop, as does everybody on our defense. I mean, I'm not just speaking of our secondary. We have to make great strides this week every single day.
Coach Barbet, your feelings generally after reviewing your offense, how they performed and executed?
I think always, there's definitely room for improvement, and there was a lot of yards that were left out there. We'd like to hit more explosive passes than what we put up on Saturday. Was pleased with no turnovers, right? We protected the football, and that was one of the number one things that we talked about, and no penalties. So from that perspective, was pleased. But, we got a long ways to go. It was good for us to get out and play against somebody that's not, Coach Brock and Coach Arnett's defense out there. So I thought we gained a lot of valuable experience. And, now we put that one to bed and we're on to the next one.
Talk a lot of the offseason of, young guys that can make an impact. How much does confidence grow when a guy like Creed goes out there and has now, game under his belt, a performance like that?
Yeah, I was happy for Creed. He's a gamer, man. He got his opportunity a couple times to touch the ball, and when he did, he created some explosives. And you can just tell, he's a passionate player too, right? I mean, he plays with energy and passion, and it was fun to watch him. It's really fun to watch those young guys, and it's their first college game, and they get in the atmosphere in that kind of stadium, and you can tell early on if it's too big for him or if it's not, and it's definitely not too big for Creed Whittemore.
With the Mike Wright stuff, with you seeing it have some success right away, does that open up the possibilities of what you can stem off of that going forward and build off of that?
Yeah, I mean, Mike Wright is an explosive football player, and I told you, coming in, it's about finding ways to create explosives and put your best 11 on the field, and every week is a little bit different, so this week it'll be different than what we had last week. But Mike is an experienced player and a great young man, a great quarterback, and we got to utilize his strengths in our offense to create explosives.
Will said he has a go route in his repertoire. You think that's going to be part of it?
Yeah, Will has a go route. I just don't know if we're going to call a go route throw to him. No, Will's done a great job, and those guys, they got a great relationship with each other, and they enjoy being on the field at the same time. And like I told you guys, it's about creativity and just finding ways to put your players in the best matchup possible.
We saw you go for fourth down, I think 1 or 2 times during the game. I'm curious what goes into sort of those conversations in those high leverage plays with Zach, and even if Will is somewhat included in those decisions or talks.
Yeah, I guess generally speaking, we're going to be aggressive, and especially in certain portions of the field, Coach Arnett kind of gives me the heads up on first down. Hey, you got 4 here, whatever. And so I know beforehand, and so some of the third down runs you see, right, or a little bit of sequencing plays. But, those fourth down calls, especially third down calls with Will Rogers, we have extensive conversations about what he feels comfortable with, what coverages we're trying to beat, what pressures we've got to handle. And, we go through each of the situational plays and what he feels best with.
I know you guys look to, finish off every drive, but how nice is it having, a guy like Kyle Ferry go out there and hit a couple from 45 plus?
Yeah, he had an awesome performance, man, and that makes a huge difference. Obviously, we're disappointed when we don't score touchdowns in the red area because, you got to get down there and finish. And, we'd like to have a faster start, too. I mean, obviously, we didn't start off the way that we wanted as far as just scoring red area touchdowns. But, man, he had a great performance kicking the ball.
Pretty massive front, too, for Arizona. They hit the portal really hard. Got a kid from Georgia, UCLA, and Michigan. What are your impressions of that group, and how do you plan to run on the interior against them?
Yeah, Arizona, like you said, up front, those guys are, a bunch of transfer guys that have done a really, really nice job. I mean, they're really big. It'll be a different unit this week than what we faced last week, and I think their linebacker core is really, really good. The Manu kid, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, but I think he is a phenomenal player. One of their team captains, but he's really a hard-nosed kid that runs well to the football and just plays the game like he should. We're going to have our work cut out for us. We're still kind of installing our base plan right now and finding ways to run the football and put the ball out on the perimeter and just mix it up and try to keep them as off guard as possible.
There's a little bit more scramble element now with Will this year, the way the offense is set up. He's getting out to the corners and sometimes intentionally, some just effort. What are y'all working on maybe to not just go outside, but also look for those shots downfield? Because a couple were open the other day.
Yes, sir. We're with Will, we're trying to move the launch point as much as we can where, that helps us out in protection. And, there were a couple shots downfield that, I think we'd all like to have back that, had an opportunity to hit big ones. And that's just about repetition and continuing to practice the timing and get comfortable moving, from a different launch point. But I thought he's handled it well. We throw a bunch of bootlegs and nakeds and things like that where I think he's got a comfort level, and I think there was a lot of misconception about, maybe him just being a drop back, drop, rock, and throw kind of a guy, where I think he throws on the run, pretty well and very accurately.
Along those lines, you're potentially getting Xavion back this week, just the importance of that and how that can help get those deep balls connecting again.
Yeah, Xavion's a heck of a player and a very explosive guy that, we will love to have back in the offense. And, it's been a while. He's been out for a little while. So from a timing standpoint, we'll have to kind of catch back up. But Xavion's a great young man, a phenomenal athlete, very, very twitchy. And he's one of those guys that just has a knack for making plays.
Going back to Creed for a sec, the work he did in the offseason, were you surprised that he was able to, jump out of the gate the way he did, or?
No, not at all. Creed, early on, whenever I first got here during spring, was making plays and, making some phenomenal catches and kind of those circus catches. So, again, he's a coach's kid. He's grown up around it his whole life and, played quarterback, played probably every position on the field. So it didn't surprise me one single bit, man. The kid's a gamer, and I look forward to the rest of the season with Creed.
Going into the season, there were some concerns about maybe pre-snap stuff, especially with maybe timing changes on first downs, things like that. A lot of concerns expressed, and yet you didn't have a single false start, no procedure penalties. How satisfying was that?
It was very satisfying. For our offense and as much shifting and motion and personnel substitutions as we had, I was really proud of the guys from a communication standpoint, to operate without any penalties. And that's about details and discipline, and we've got to continue that, right? And we've got to, like I said, we've got to start faster, but we've got to continue improving on those details. And I was pleased, though, without any penalties.
Something Will said earlier today caught my attention. He said that their front seven for Arizona is very mobile. Can you talk a little bit more about what he meant by that and how your offense and he and your offense are going to have to deal with that?
Yeah, I think they've got two great defensive ends that can really redirect and run. Obviously those two interior guys are big guys. 6'6", 325, and 6'5", 315, I believe. But, like I alluded to with their linebackers, like these guys, they can really run. They got a great nickel Sam outside that's played a lot, and he's played corner as well. So, it tells you that he can run. And they get to side really well. So, we're going to have to do a good job of mixing up run and pass and try to, see if we can suck the safeties down a little bit with play action to take some shots. But really, it's a matter of toughness, right? And winning the line of scrimmage, and that's what we've got to be able to do is, win the line of scrimmage and create explosives in both the run and pass game.